Hello, my name is Curtis Boggy, and I'm here today to tell you a little bit about some of the wacky stuff that I've been lucky to do in my rather long lifetime. I'm 67 years old. I lived here in Las Vegas for a good period of my life. Its hometown really is obviously New Mexico. But in the 1970s, I made a big change in my life. I was working for Pizza Hut. I was their golden boy. They'd send me all around New Mexico, Colorado, and Arizona to help Pizza Huts that were in trouble recover. But I got bored of that. I moved to Houston. I had a brother that lived there. I had a booming economy. I thought, I'll find something cool down here. A friend of my sister-in-law saw an article in the paper about auditions for an outdoor drama at a place called the Mary Moody Northern Amphitheater on Galveston Island. And I was depressed at the time. I hadn't seen the sunshine in at least 30 days. It rained every day in Houston. This was around Christmas time. A couple of weeks later, I'm laying up in my bed, and I didn't have to go to work that day. And I'm laying there in the morning, and someone comes on the radio and says, "Don't forget about those auditions out at the Mary Moody Northern Amphitheater," and so forth and so on. I thought, I've never been to Galveston. I'll drive down there. So I drove down, and I said, well, I'll go look at this theater. Went out to the theater, gorgeous, brand new, fantastic facility, outdoor amphitheater type thing. And there were people lined up going in the door of this building. And I thought, I'll go get in the line. So I got in the line. I got up there. You want to audition? I didn't prepare anything. Well, what can you do? And I said, I sing and dance, I do a little this and that. So they found a copy of Sorry with a Fringe on Top from Oklahoma. And I sang that. I got about through the first verse. And they hired me on the spot to play Davy Crockett. So during the run for about 6 months, I played Davy Crockett. I died every night in the Alamo. I was happy that I got to come back in the second act as the ghost of Davy Crockett. That was kind of fun. Also got to do a lot of dancing. And it was at that point in my life that I realized I was going to give in to the urge. I had to be a performer. I really was not happy doing anything else. And I didn't care what kind of performing I was doing. I just had to be on stage and doing something. I know a lot of this from my parents. My father was a very outgoing man. He was a Presbyterian minister here in Las Vegas for a good number of years. My mother's still kicking good at 95. Also quite an interesting individual. So I came by that naturally. I also happen to have a big, strong voice. I'm a singer of some sorts, although if it gets out of control, it can be dangerous. So I decided at that time that I had to perform, and I wasn't going to be happy doing anything else. So I got paid peanuts to do that outdoor drama, but it got me in the right frame of mind, and I began auditioning regularly for things. I was fortunate in 1981 to get a one-line part as the 10th outlaw in a film that's shot here outside of Santa Fe called Time Rider. Story of a guy on a motorcycle, goes across the desert, goes into a race in Baja, passes through some scientist's experiment, zapped back in time 100 years with his motorcycle, and he's there with the cowboys and whatnot. And my line was, "Go get him, boys," or something really good like that. But the key to that was it qualified me to join the union, to join the Screen Actors Guild, which I did right away. And there's a real catch-22 in the film and television business, that you can't work until you join the union, and you can't join the union until you work. So it's not easy to get in the union, but I accidentally got in the union at that time, which was of tremendous benefit to me later, because I did bits and parts of little things here and there. The money was always really nice because it was a union gig. But then I got cast in a thing called The Heavy that was shooting here in Las Vegas. And I got cast as a ne'er-do-well, half-wit, drunkard, really foul individual. And I was to have a 45-second fight scene with David Carradine. Most of you know who David Carradine is. He was the Kung Fu guy. He's no longer with us. And he had a very interesting life in later years. He couldn't stay sober, quite honestly. Actually, he and I had a confrontation in the lobby of this hotel. I just remembered that. But he showed up on the set stinking drunk. He could barely stand up. And I was so disappointed. They canceled the film. They shut it down after about 2 weeks. And I was heartbroken. A 45-second fight scene with someone like David Carradine, that's a kind of a career maker kind of thing for either an actor or a stuntman. And I had rehearsed with the stunt crew. We had been choreographing the fight sequence. And I became very good friends with them. Well, they were disappointed when the thing shut down, as was I. And the guys in the stunt crew, there were all men and one woman, They weren't ready to go home to LA yet. They hadn't partied enough here in Las Vegas, and so they wanted to stick around New Mexico for a while. I happened to have a trade out in Marriott in Albuquerque because I did large-scale balloon decor for trade fairs, conventions, and whatnot. And so I told the guys, hey, come on down to Albuquerque, I'll put you up to Marriott, we can hang out, party. And they said, okay, we'll teach you everything you ever wanted to know about stunt business. I said, okay. The stunt business is a lot like magicians. They don't like giving away their secrets. I'll give you whatever you want today, no problem. They don't know what they're going. But they offered to teach me anything I wanted to know and tell me all about stunt business, and they were true to their word. They came down, spent a week. We went rappelling up in the Sandias and did all kinds of things. Then they said, as they were leaving, they said, hey, come on out to LA, come on out to LA. And we'll do this, and we'll do that, and the other. And I don't think they expected me, but two weeks later, I show up in LA, and I go rent a car from a car rental agency, and we take it out, and we tear that car to pieces. They taught me how to do slide 90s and 180-degree rotations and even 360s and that sort of thing, and emergency stuff. They taught me a lot of things about driving. I later attended the Bondurant School of High Performance Driving that's just outside of Chandler, Arizona, and that was kind of fun. It also got me a nice thing on my resume, Bondurant. So they said, hey, move out to LA, move out to LA. And I said, yeah. And they didn't think I'd ever show up. I came back, I had a cousin who worked for me. I leased to him my singing telegram company in Albuquerque, along with my Illuminatia company. These are other stories I might tell you another day. I decorated most of the buildings in Albuquerque and Santa Fe for a number of years. In any event, my cousin Mark took over that company for me, and he kept it alive, kind of barely. And I packed up my junk in a little homemade two-wheel trailer, and I had a hitch. I don't know how I got the hitch put on there, on a 1973 Plymouth Champ, which is about the size of this podium. And I headed for LA, pulling a trailer that weighed a couple thousand pounds. It had no business being behind that little three-cylinder car. So I get to the incline out of Needles, and it's a straight incline for, I don't know, 40 miles all the way up to Barstow, something like that. Well, that poor little Mitsubishi engine didn't want any part of that. It was summertime, it was hot as hell. I had 12 gallons of water in milk jugs in the back seat because I knew I was going to boil over, and when I did, I could pour some water out and put some water. That's another story, maybe another day we'll talk about that. But I made it to LA. It was iffy. And I'd already prearranged for an apartment, to share an apartment with another stuntman. And so I went to the apartment, I've been loading all my junk out of the car, and I called my buddies up. Ron Altoff was the fellow I happened to call. I said, well, I live in LA now, well, what do we do next? And he said, what are you doing right now? And I said, well, I'm just unloading my car and putting water in the water bed and whatnot. He said, stop, get your ass on the expressway, come out to 101, take the Woodward exit, go 2 blocks to the right, turn left, you'll see the trucks are working tonight. I think there's a very good chance that I am the only person on this planet who went to Hollywood to get into film and worked before he slept. So again, luck has always had a tremendous amount to do with that. I worked on some movies that you never would have heard of, a thing called Genesis Conspiracy, Taxi, Dancers, things that probably went straight to video in Taiwan at the time, but it didn't matter, it was working. I was in Hollywood, and the most important thing, people thought I was a stuntman. This whole story is about a middle-aged man who pretends to be a stuntman and then becomes one. So I worked on these little films, and I always watched the Hollywood Reporter, Variety magazine, auditions and job things would come out often. And I saw one day that says, wanted, stuntmen who can ride a horse, 6'5" and above. Okay. So, and it was called the George Lucas Super Live Adventure, so it attracted quite a bit of attention. I went and auditioned for it, and by the strangest of happenstances, I had 2 other auditions on that same day. Don't think I'd ever had 2 auditions in a given day, ever, but I did that day. And I went through most of the audition, but I had to leave early, so I went up to the table where the director was sitting and making notes and perusing, and they had a choreographer, and they had the fight captains, and it was a big deal, big budget. They auditioned in Orlando, they auditioned in Las Vegas, and they auditioned in LA. I caught the LA audition. I think over 3,000 people auditioned at one point or another. I went up to the table because I wasn't shy, although all of a sudden I am now. And I pointed to my resume, my picture in front of the guy on the table. His name was Scott Ferris. And I said, I'm the guy to ride the horse. There's no bullshit on my resume. And he kind of nodded his head, and he called me the next day, and he hired me to ride the horse on stage. That's that big black Frisian horse that you saw. That was a critical thing, and that stage was a 5-foot elevated plywood stage, about this high, and immediately there is the audience, and there is no barrier of any sort. If something goes wrong and that horse goes off the stage, it's going to be all over the newspapers in Japan for the next week or so, because A, the horse is going to end up dead, no question, he'll break legs and go off of that thing. If he lands in the crowd, which he might well have, and no telling how much thrashing around could have happened. If you're horse people, you can well imagine what that might have led to. We had some issues at the very beginning with the horse skittering sideways when they were moving a big scenery piece behind him. And I refused to ride one night. I said, it's too dangerous. He was crab stepping and moving back toward the edge of that stage. And I'd bail off and hold him. And I finally told him one night, I said, I'm not going to ride him. Think of something else. I said, you give me the rehearsal time that we need under real conditions with all the lasers and all the smoke and all the other people sword fighting and all this kind of stuff going on. Give us the rehearsal time we need or I'm not going to ride again. They got my understudy into a room somewhere and they leaned on him. And they said, hey, Tasso, how about you? You ride the horse tonight? You know, Curtis doesn't want to. Tasso agreed to ride the horse. He shouldn't have. And I love the guy still to this day, but that would have been the time for solidarity. That would have been the time for all of the stunt people to say, no, no, no. If it's not safe, we don't do it. But these people didn't understand. Kenneth Feld is a very, very rich man who owns Ringling Brothers, all of the Disney ice shows and those kinds of things, and he was heavily involved in this, along with George Lucas. All the money came from Japan. And Kenneth Feld, he came to watch our rehearsals. We rehearsed for 3 months in Charlotte, North Carolina. Grueling. He came over there and he looked to watch this rehearsal. He looked over to I don't know, George Lucas or Scott Ferris, said, why aren't they hitting each other? And we tried to explain to him, we've got to do this show 195 times when we get to Japan. Stunt people don't actually hit each other. The good ones can make it look that way. And someday maybe we'll do a little demo of how stage fighting goes. In any event, I refused to ride the horse. I thought they might fire me. We'd only been open for about 2 weeks in Shin, Yokohama, in a magnificent arena that sat, I think, 12,000 or something, huge arena. But the set was humongous. The set took 43 semi-trailers to move it from one city to another. We went to Shin, Yokohama, Osaka, Nagoya, and Tokyo over a 6-month period. I thought they might fire me. When we had the closing that night, we all played multiple roles. I was on the horse, I was also Darth Vader toward the end, and well, you saw me dancing. That was the section that had to do with American Graffiti. It was all based on all of George Lucas's movies. Variety summarized the thing at some point. They said, a big show that has something for everyone, and not much for anyone. And it was kind of true, but the Japanese did love it. They packed the house all the time. I think it did break even at the end of the run, but it was a terribly expensive thing. Not only did we have the horse, we had a backup horse that we never used. We had 2 tigers, 3 dogs, and the tigers were serious. One of them got loose in Charlotte, North Carolina while we were there. And that was 20 minutes or so of some high anxiety, but the tiger handler got the tiger back and everything was fine. So I went to Japan and it was a very exciting time for me. I was faking it completely. In rehearsals in North Carolina, I would hide around the corner and I'd watch the young, studly stuntmen doing their high fall practice and doing their sword fighting and these sorts of things. And I would just peek and watch and peek and watch and watch and watch and watch. And then they'd leave and I'd go get on the high fall towers and I'd start doing it. Sometimes it hurt, but I couldn't let on. And because I was 41 years old at the time and I was already a member of the Screen Actors Guild, everyone assumed that I was an experienced stuntman. They assumed that I'd been doing stunts probably since I was a teenager. Well, I had been, but not for pay. And so I was given the benefit of the doubt at every turn, including when I got back from the show in Japan, and I'll end on this little story. We were there for 6 months, we came back, and a couple weeks later I was called by my stunt service in LA to be a stunt double for an actor, a man named John Capodice. You wouldn't recognize his name, but if you saw him, you'd recognize his face. He played every New York captain of police ever back in the day. So I was going out on the set of a high-budget Paramount, Naked Gun 33 1/3, The Final Insult was the name of the film. And I was going out on the set the next day, and this was big time. This was downtown LA, and it was Paramount, and this was the real deal. So I told my buddy Ron Altoff, I said, look, I'm scared to death. I'm going to go out there and make a fool of myself. I said, you got to come with me. You got to come with me. He laughed and laughed. Okay, but I can only come one day, he said. So he came out with me the first day. 30 or so experienced stunt people on the set when we got there. He introduced me to the ones he knew, which was most of them. And because I wasn't a youngster, no one questioned that I must be an experienced stuntman. I was brought there by an experienced stuntman, so nobody ever asked a question. And I got to know and got acquainted with those 30 or so people on the set that day. I was scheduled to be there for at least a week. I ended up staying 2 weeks, made a lot of money. That was sweet. Never did a thing. You can't see me in the film. I turned around and ran up a staircase at the end of it. That's all I did. But I was there every day, and there was a new group of stunt people every day. Over that 2-week period, I met almost all of the real stunt people, 300, 350, I don't know, a lot of people who came in and out, in and out, in and out. They all met me. I was there throughout. I had my own little trailer with my name on it and stuff, because I was doubling an actor who was going to be there a while, so I had to be there whenever he was there. And so I met all these people. They all thought I was legitimate as hell. I don't know how much time I've used up, but I'll finish this one off. The stunt coordinator was a wonderful man named Phil Owens, who I think is probably still working. He's a bit senior to me, but I imagine he's still working. And he had known me, he'd seen me for 2 weeks. I'd been there, and we'd been in close proximity. I didn't really do anything. By the way, O.J. Simpson worked on the film, Leslie Nielsen, Patricia Presley, and a few other people. And so he comes up to the stunt group. They always stayed kind of separate, the stunt people did, because we're all telling each other lies and stuff. And we don't want to be around the actors. They're too hoity-toity, and the extras, and we look down on the extras, we don't want to hang out with them. So the stunt people tend to congregate pretty much together. Stunt coordinator comes up to a group, there were 20 plus of us there sitting around drinking coffee and donuts probably. And he announces to the group, everybody, I got to go out to Hanson Dam, I got to take a look at that location for tomorrow's shoot. While I'm gone, Curtis is in charge. He left me in charge of a Paramount movie set. And he said, I don't think anything's going to happen, but if anything does, Curtis is in charge. For no good reason other than that he'd seen me roaming around for 2 weeks and so forth. So he left me in charge. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. The stories go on and on and on. But that's probably enough for now. But if there's any questions, I'm happy to.
Did you get extra pay for being in charge that day?
I doubt it. Now, I never thought I could call the union. You know, in stunt business, you do get extra pay. If you do anything, you get a base pay. The base pay right now is $930 a day. That's just for showing up on the set. Added to that comes overtime and meal penalties and costuming and this and that and the other, travel and per diem and those kind of things. So even if I go out on the set and do nothing, I'm likely to walk with $1,500 or so. That happens once or twice a year, so, you know, don't come to me to borrow money. I ain't got no damn money. Yes, there's money. I forgot what I was going to. I had a point there. Yes?
Who's the actress that you were most impressed to meet?
Well, it's got to be George Lucas, just because of his fame and whatnot. But in all honesty, Ben Kingsley. I met and spent some time with Ben Kingsley. In fact, it was common, and probably still now is common, when there's a big actor in New Mexico working on a film, at least they take one night out during the shoot, and they invite all of the local union actors to come, and we sit down in a group of, there might be 30, 40 people, and we get to talk to Ben Kingsley and, what's the guy's name? More Cowbell, Christopher Walken, that guy was a riot. So we get to sit down and talk to them and ask them questions and so forth. And always in my mind, a question that someone asked Ben Kingsley sticks. Ben Kingsley was in Schindler's List, the Wiesenthal films. He's been in a lot of things about the Holocaust. And someone asked him the standard question. I don't know if you've ever seen the Bravo interviews where this guy interviews famous people. And one question he always asks them is, if you die and get to the pearly gates and you meet up with God, what are you going to say to him? And Ben Kingsley sat there for a long 10, 15 seconds, which is a long time, and he looked up and he said, he's got some explaining to do. And I like some Ben Kingsley. Any other questions?
Would you do me a favor? I'd like you to do just a small presentation
of how you deck somebody, and I want to
Oh.
volunteer Lee.
Sure. Come on up here, Lee. I won't hurt you. It does help to have a person of similar height, although what they often do with stunt people of my size, we're the big guys that get their shit kicked out of us by the little guys. So we're usually doing most of the falling down. It's important to throw a blow that you have your elbow up nice and high. And you start it here and you come right across there. And as you come across, there's a little snap right there. Now, of course, he reacts. Boom. Violently like this. Okay. Boom. The sound people, they put that in. We don't make any noise when we're doing it on the stage. So, and it's similar with other punches. An uppercut just comes right here. Oh, don't bend over. And that's the basic of it. Lean back, load it up, bring it across and snap it right at the point where you think it's going to actually make contact. So that's the basics of throwing a punch. And a quick story in the Viking Adventure show where you saw me dressed up like a Viking. I had a terrible neck problem that bugged me like crazy, just painful and annoying. And we're doing this show, and the Japanese fellow I was playing against didn't speak any English. I'm sorry, let me get up here. He didn't speak any English, and he had to throw a big roundhouse kick to my face and knock me down. He was always afraid he was going to hit me. I wasn't going to let him hit me. And I tried to explain that to him. But when he would throw that kick, and I can't get to now, he had to pick me up off the floor, he would pull his leg in somewhat. And it didn't look good. And I'm thinking this big reaction, he's always kicked me in the head, and I can't fall. I got frustrated with him. I kept telling him, come on, get that kick within 6 inches of my face, come on. And okay, and he wouldn't do it. So one night, I thought, well, I'm going to make him look silly. I'm going to throw a huge reaction. Just huge, like I got kicked by a Caterpillar truck or something. And so he throws that lame little kick. I do this huge take and fall down. And I realized I heard things cracking my neck. And I fell down. I had to lay there for about 60 seconds while other action was going on. Then I got up and rejoined the fray. And I remember laying there on the floor thinking, okay, I'm going to try to get up. If I feel the least little bit of pain, I'm laying back down. I'm going to shut the show down. Not only was I able to get up and continue with the scene, the pain from my neck was gone from that day until now. So I did my own little chiropractic adjustment. It worked out pretty well.
Any other questions for Curtis? Curtis, you've been the most delightful speaker we've had in a long time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being
You
here.
have such a lovely singing voice. Are you trying me a song? Well, you know it. Everybody knows it. We'll have to stand up to do it.
Uh-oh.
Let me get over here by you. And we're going to start it out nice and low. You're not an alto, aren't you? You're an alto?
I'm more of a soprano.
Okay, well, let's do the best we can. You guys promise not to laugh at us. You will need to stand up, though.
Okay, you standing up?
Okay.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? I've done that a lot of times. I used to do it for the Albuquerque Dukes baseball team. I've never, that's the first time I've ever done it without having the words in front of me. Because it just terrifies the heck out of me.
Curtis, we like gifts to our speakers. What we give them is we give them a book, and we want you to sign it, and maybe some little message. And this just looks so much like you guys. Dinosaur days. I mean, can you imagine? And we give these to the second graders at Mora Elementary School, right before summer, before their third grade year. And they read this book, and that's our tradition. So I want to get a picture of you two.
Oh.
Yeah, let's see. Let me back up. Right in the way of your son's thing. Is that it?
Turn toward the camera so I can see the book. There you go.
Did I get that? Okay, guys, here goes. Should that be clicking, Gwen?
Yeah. Is it turned on?
Well, hell, I don't know.
There.
All right, now, I never said I could take a picture. All right, you guys, here it goes. 1, 2, 3. Good, gotcha. One more.
Or did the flash just go up?
Flash to go on? You're used to this, Curtis.
Well, I've never been on that side of the camera. Believe me, I'm useless.
Take 57. Here we go. There we go. And it's a good one.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All